Hi, my name is Natasha Hastings, and I'm the author of The Miraculous, Sweetmakers and The Frost Fair, which is, I'm delighted to say, the Waterstones Children's Book of the Month for November, with these glorious sprayed edges. Now I'm going to read you an excerpt of The Miraculous, Sweetmakers and The Frost Fair, and this is when Thomasina, one of the main characters, visits the other Frost Fair for the first time. So the other Frost Fair is a magical Frost Fair that emerges only in the nighttime, and the Frost Fair emerges in the daytime. So daytime, Frost Fair, nighttime, other Frost Fair. And this is when she visits. "Good evening, Miss Burgess," Inigo murmured. She hadn't realised it would be possible for him to be even more extravagantly dressed. Tonight, Inigo wore a glittering silver cloak, studded with sapphires, pearls, and opals. Rather than being brightened with silver embroidery, his blue velvet doublet was bedecked with star-like diamonds that twinkled in the moonlight, and he wore an ugly, elaborate headpiece covered in white feathers. "Lovely, isn't it?" he said, preening as she stared at him open-mouthed. He turned so his knife-sharp cheekbones were illuminated by the moonlight. "Don't worry. Many have been speechless upon first seeing it. You are not alone in your reaction." "Oh," she faltered. Yes, it's wonderful." "Shall we, my dear?" he said, offering her his arm. After a shivering moment's hesitation, she took it. It felt as cold and stiff as glass, as if there was no flesh and blood beneath the soft fabric of his sleeve. "Tonight," Inigo announced, "is the first night of the other Frost Fair." "The other Frost Fair?" she said. "What's that?" "A magical Frost Fair, unlike anything you'll see in the daylight. The other Frost Fair is created from magic and sea smoke. It's a living, breathing thing with traces of ancient magic. It's as curious as the breath before song, and as strange as the glimmer of moonlight on water. Yet it exists, and you'll visit it tonight." Thomasina didn't know what to say to this. Inigo's words felt magical in themselves, as if he were casting a spell over her. Even though she was visiting the other Frost Fair to bring Arthur back, she now wanted to see it just because. And what was sea smoke? Her head felt muddled just attempting to picture what Inigo meant. While they navigated the tangle of Southwark streets, Inigo kept Thomasina entertained with stories of how much London's face had changed. "The last time I was here was well before the Great Fire," he said. The city looked positively ancient, ghastly architecture, wooden houses everywhere, all rather slovenly. Not to my taste at all, he told her as they walked along. The streets were so narrow, much pokier than the ones you have now. Oh, but St. Paul's, my dear, oh, you have no idea how spectacular it was. Not that you could imagine such a thing, he sighed. There's nothing there now apart from building works. Again, Thomasina wondered exactly what he meant, and how old he was. "How long did you live in London before the Great Fire?" she asked. "Ah," Iligo said, blue eyes flickering between both of hers, a silvery flush decorating his cheeks. "That's an excellent question. Now, close your eyes, Miss Burgess, we're near the other Frost Fair." Thomasina bristled at his deflection, but sighed and closed her eyes anyway, resolving to ask him again later. Her heart was hammering at the thought of seeing the other Frost Fair. Hands as thin and icy as stalagmites guided her gently round a corner. "Open them," he exclaimed. She did, and immediately staggered backwards, her heart skipping so much she was surprised it didn't burst out of her chest. Tents of all shapes and sizes stretched along the river, coloured silver, white, and midnight blue. Prowling around them were snarling, silver-coloured beasts, scraping the ice with their claws, their fur rippling in the winter winds. Their eyes were frosted white, and blue flames flickered out of their mouths. One of them was, "Oh my goodness!" Thomasina gasped. "That's a magical goat!" A goat came clattering across the ice to greet them both, its coat a sheen of sparkling white ice. Rooted to the spot, Thomasina saw her frightened face cracked and mirrored in its stern gaze. The creature sniffed the air around her, then swiveled its blank eyes to Inigo. It bleated and clip-clopped away. Inigo patted Thomasina's arm. "Our frost beasts are the gatekeepers of the other Frost Fair. They keep out unwelcome visitors. You're my guest, so they won't hurt you. But cross their path or come here when you're not welcome, and they might." Thomasina shivered at this. She watched an assortment of frost beasts prick up their ears and sprint across the ice. A cry was echoing miles away. "I'm scared," she said. "Don't worry, my dear," Inigo replied. "They're just as harmless as I am."